Howdy folks, Dread Shells here, and welcome back to World of Tanks. I hope all of you guys are doing well and all set for Christmas. It's right around the corner here. We're only a couple days away, and this in all likelihood will be the last video that I'm making before the holiday. So if there's a break on the channel in content for about a week or so, I'll be busy with both work and also with spending time with families. So that is where I'll be. So I hope you guys understand if there's a break in content on the channel for a little bit. But today we're going to be looking at the AMX 12t, the Tier 6 French Scout tank. And I decided that I might try and do a little bit of a different video format. I decided that maybe I should spend a little bit of time before I show gameplay of whatever scout I'm showing, to jump into the garage just real quick and talk about the tank a little bit as far as the strengths, the weaknesses, the play style of it, and equipment loadouts and skill loadout and all that. So let me know in the comments if you guys like this kind of video format, briefly talking about the tank before we actually jump into some gameplay, and I'll decide from there if it's something I want to continue doing in the future. But yeah, the AMX 12t, the things that it has going for it at the moment in its current version is it's of course an autoloader, so you check one off for firepower, and specifically when it comes to burst damage. Now, this tank has the lowest DPM, I think, of all the Tier 6 scouts, of course, because it's an autoloader. So you get your burst damage out, and then you spend a significant amount of time reloading. This tank also, I believe, used to have a 6 shots in its autoloader, and now Wargaming reduced it to 4. So you are reduced in your ability to assassinate mid HP tanks, like tanks that are half hit points, so to that range. So you kind of have to work on your enemies a little bit more and whittle them down a little bit more, or let your team whittle them down more before you're able to just go in and take them out with 4 shots, because you don't have as much total damage potential in one clip as you used to, because you have 2 fewer shells. One of the other check marks as far as firepower is concerned, it has really good penetration. 144 millimeters of penetration. Well, I shouldn't say really good. That's good. And that used to be kind of semi-standard to above standard, but I think Wargaming nerfed most of the penetration of most of the scouts, but for some reason, I think they left this scout alone. So now that it sees only +2 matchmaking instead of +3, 144 millimeters of penetration will be adequate most of the time. I do carry a significant amount of premium ammo in this tank, because when you start getting into Tier 7 and Tier 8 games, 144 millimeters isn't going to cut it. And in a lot of situations with the current map meta that Wargaming has with their map design, where you seem to have fewer and fewer opportunities to flank your enemy, and you'll end up shooting them either front or at a 45-degree angle. You really need those increased penetration from the APCR, which I think goes up to 202 millimeters of penetration. Yeah. Also, one of the downsides of the firepower of the AMX 12t is its ammo count overall. It only gets 36 rounds of ammunition with 135 alpha damage per shot, so that is quite low damage potential. Not as bad as it used to be now that it's +2 matchmaking, so that means that since you're seeing lower tiers overall, the hit point pool of the entire enemy team it will be on average lower than before, but it's still a pretty low damage potential. So I recommend never carrying high explosive in this tank. It would be a waste of ammo space, and you just need every shot of that to count. The gun handling is okay. I wouldn't say it's great. You really have to maybe wait a second or two longer than you would with maybe the Type 64 or the 5916 or any other tank like that. you need to wait a little bit longer to make sure your shots count. So give yourself time, set yourself up in situations where you have the time, or you're in a situation where you're so close that you won't miss. Um, as far as mobility is concerned on this tank, it's good enough. I believe it's nothing amazing. The Scout was always pretty sluggish back before the changes to Scouts, so I wouldn't call it sluggish now. I'm not sure if they changed the mobility stats of this tank. I'll have to check after this video if they changed anything about the mobility as far as top speed, horsepower, ground resistances, that and traverse, that kind of stuff. And maybe I'll throw up a subtitle here in the video if I find anything that they changed about the mobility of this tank. But it's good enough for now currently. And the camo rating is also decent. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. It's okay there with my crew. Keep in mind that I only have 89% on 2 of my crew members here, and I have a 31.38% camo rating. I am using vents and food, so that bumps it up a little bit more. But the camo rating is pretty good on this tank. The only reason that I don't have training camo on my commander is just because I don't have the gold to retrain him once I would get him to 100% and then retrain for 6th Sense. So saving myself some gold by saving myself a retrain just by having 6th Sense started as the first crew, and then I'll start training camo on him. You got to remember that when you're training camo on your crew, that the camo skill of all the crew members are added up together, and then they're divided by the number of crew. So it isn't like you have 89%. So you would have to add 89, 89, and then that number would be divided by 3, and that is the camo rating modifier of the base camo rating of the tank, is how that works. And in case you guys are curious on what the best thing you can do to improve your camo rating in your Scouts, it's the camo skill itself of the crew. That is the best modifier you can start with to improve your camo. And then the other modifiers you can do, of course, is paint, of course. And the vents, food, and brothers in arms will modify the camo value a little bit more, just because when you modify the primary skill of your crew, it improves how much benefit you get from your skills and your perks of your crew just by a small percentage point, and that'll improve your camo rating a little bit more. But the biggest thing that you can do to improve your camo rating in battle is camo on your crew, and then of course using environmental camo such as bushes and trees. But anyway, enough rambling. I think this tank is pretty powerful. I wouldn't say it's OP. I say it's good enough. It's competitive, and I've been really enjoying it. So I will show you guys some gameplay I had in the AMX 12t on Live Oaks, in which I was able to earn 100% mark of excellence in the AMX 12t, which, as far as I'm aware, is the I had the highest combined direct damage and assistance damage in this tank on the server for the last 2 weeks, slash over 100 battles, I believe, is how that works. So now let's jump into some live gameplay, or excuse me, just some gameplay. Alright, so here we are in a tier 8 game in our AMX 12t on Live Oaks. And I really like Live Oaks. It's not my most favorite map in World of Tanks, but it's definitely probably in the top 10 or maybe in the top 5 of my favorite maps in World of Tanks. It just gives a lot of vision opportunity. It gives close range brawling opportunities. It gives sniping opportunities. It gives mid-range peek and poke and vision games. It's a little bit on the smaller side when it comes to if you start getting into tier 10 games, and the vision saturation becomes a problem. But that is a problem with most maps at tier 10, just because Wargaming don't make big enough maps for tier 9 and tier 10 matches, in my opinion. And they need to do a better job of scaling map size to the higher tier that you go, in my opinion. Before I start rambling on too much, though, let's just start the game here. Alright, so keep in mind that I do not have 6th Sense on my AMX 12t here. I'm only at 89% on my first skill for this crew, and I don't have 100% camo rating either. Talking about camo rating of this tank, I double checked it. It has almost 18% base camo rating, which is really good. So it's a pretty sneaky scout tank. But I always assume that I'm spotted until proven otherwise if I'm playing scouts that do not have 6th Sense. So in that situation there, when the T-37 and I were running into each other they're down in the ditch, I assumed that I was spotted and dove into the houses for cover. Unfortunately, missed our kill shot there on the 35M, and unfortunately, somebody else nicks the kill on there. And honestly, that is an example of how to not do your economy of your ammo in this tank. So I did a bad job there. You don't really have a whole lot of ammo in this tank, and you really need to make every shot count. But yeah, like I said, always assuming that you're spotted until you're proven otherwise if you're playing a tank without 6th Sense, especially in scouts, so you always need to be staying on your toes. And someone did take a shot at me there when I was initially spotted, so that proved that we were spotted there. Taking my time here to aim, you see how long it takes to re-aim the gun after moving. So we get 2 good shots in there. Staying maybe a little bit too long there, seeing if I could get a 3rd shot in, and I was exposing myself to fire from the M6 and possibly any other snipers that were behind with the M6 there in E2. I really like using this position here early game on Live Oaks if you're from the northeast spawn. This bush here is really good for spotting or getting 1-shots in. You're camoed up from the snipers in E2 and E3, and you can spot down this B lateral street. I'm gonna pause the game here real quick. Sorry, any of you guys who watch my videos know I do this sometimes. But yeah, but the bush back here behind this house, you can look all the way down the street right here, and you can see heavies as they cross into the city. And also, there's gaps in vision in between these houses here, and you can spot over here where in E2 where this M6 was peeking in. You can see over here into D1 as well. So that's usually what I do if I believe that there's a lot of vision on the enemy team, and I think that I won't have any hope of contesting vision games down here in the swamp, and maybe they'll be really aggressive and spot me and get me killed before I can get back into cover. And I analyze that at the start of the countdown. I'll just go over here to this bush right away. Depending on that. So, but if there's a 50-50 chance, I tried to see if I could play the vision game over here, which is really common over here if you look on the mini map in D4, but the enemy T-37 was also trying to do the same thing and force me to retreat and relocate. So this is a really good position for you guys to use if you're not going south to the rail tracks, is to use this bush here in B4 in what I call the suburb of the city right here. So right now I'm going to try and peek here again and see if I can refine the T-37 and see where he's gone. Maybe spot some more snipers right here. It's really common for snipers to sit there in that bush. Go ahead and reload a premium clip here because I'm anticipating that I'm going to be shooting at the KV-4 here that's sitting on the Beeline Street area here. And 144 millimeters of penetration just isn't enough, and unfortunately I'm just going to be wasting some APCR rounds here on this Tiger 131. That was not who I was planning on shooting. There we go, and now we got the KV-4, and we're able to make 4-for-4 shots there with my clip there, so that's really good. That's the kind of good stewardship of your ammo that you're looking for when you're playing the 12T. Doing a really bad line of approach into the sniper hill right here. I should have come back into the houses, gotten unspotted, and come up. If there was any other snipers besides the M6 here, I would have gotten shot maybe once or twice more in my approach. So this is kind of playing a little bit carelessly here in my line of approach into the enemy sniper area there in E2. But luckily for us, no one takes a shot at us yet. There we go. We spot the Egg Panther there. decide to get up onto this hill for cover initially here before I start trying to engage him. Unfortunately, I was reloading, and I wasn't able to get any initial shots on the Egg Panther yet, but I'm hoping that if I'm keeping him spotted, this 25-2 behind me here on the minimap in C7 will be able to shoot him. And there we go, he puts a shot into him there. And then Artie takes a whack at him there. Our team there takes out the M6 that was on the other side of the hill from me here, and now we are in a fairly common situation that you'll sometimes find yourself here on Live Oaks, is that one team has won one corner of the map and the enemy team has won the other corner of the map, and you always have a decision to make in your head whenever you run into the situation on any map is, do you turn around and defend, or do you go ahead and push the tempo and attack? And most of the time it's best to turn around and try to defend, but you got to analyze each situation. I could have done that and probably would have been the better choice, but I'm anticipating here that I think we have enough defenders back here that we can hold off their push long enough for us to kill off their defenders and then wrap around, right? Because of how Live Oaks is laid out, I can easily you can easily come around here once you've won the city and start putting pressure on the railway line from the north quite quickly, just because of you don't have a really long distance to drive. You can just come right around here along the swamp area, and I want to be able to help give vision to my heavies right here as they're pushing into the enemy base. So most of the time it's better to turn around and to defend, but since my heavies aren't turning around, I want to just try and help them expedite the situation instead of me going back and trying to help defend just by myself. And there we go. It turns out that a lot of the enemy team decided to come around and defend as well. And remember, I'm not playing with the crew with Sixth Sense, so of course always assume that you're spotted until proven otherwise. I was really close to the enemy there, and I'm assuming that I'm spotted. Get a lucky snapshot in there to the 25-2, exposing myself to fire from the AT-7, so lucky that he didn't shoot me there. Someone behind me gets a shot into the 25-2, probably the heavy tank number 6. And right now, you just want to be paying attention to which tank is the isolated one as far as exposing themselves to fire to you and your team. And right now that would be the AT-7, if I can find him. There he is, right there. He's sitting on the line. Unfortunately, I can't pen him at that angle, and I'm too far away to accurately snipe his weak spots. So I just decided to go ahead and reload a premium clip here for the AT-7. But unfortunately, he's moving out of cover here, and by the time I've reloaded, he'll be into cover. So the reload on this tank isn't too bad. I think it's like around 20 seconds, 18 seconds, something like that. So it's not terrible, but it used to be a lot better when you of a reload when you had that reload and you had 6 shells to fire instead of 4. So that's kind of a bit of a long time to wait to be only able to shoot 4 shells. So you gotta think about a little bit more about when you're wanting to reload in this tank, and as far as that. And the Egg Tiger 88 decides to turn at me here, so I'm not gonna try and take a shot here if I don't have to. I got plenty of teammates behind me that can shoot these guys, so I can just try and help keep them lit here. I decide to go in now that the game is pretty much won, and I just want to get some more damage here and help my team win the game quicker. The Egg Tiger 88 is the one. I'm gonna pause the game here. Now normally, how do you engage 1 versus 2? Now, of course, I have lots of teammates here. All right, of course. So I have lots of team support. But just let's say hypothetically that I didn't, and I was fighting 2 tank destroyers here and 1 scout. Now, of course, how do you do a 1 versus 2 engagement? Well, the first rule that I always do when I do a 1 versus 2 engagement is you want to try and kill the low health tank first, of course. And in that situation, and that way you'll eliminate the gun, and then you'll be able to even out the odds and do a 1 versus 1. Now, in this scenario, I did not stop and come back here behind the AT-7 to shoot him from behind because I'm not worried about him being able to shoot me at all. I'm not worried about him turning around and shooting me for a significant amount of time because he's down here in the swamp, and this will make him very slow to turn around and shoot me, and I'm pretty sure that my teammates will kill him by the time he turns around. But if it was just me and these two tank destroyers, what I would do is I would drive straight forward, willing to take a shot from the Egg Tiger 88, out traversing the AT-7's gun. Don't try to avoid fire from all the enemies when you're trying to duel outnumbered. Just avoid fire from one of them and focus your fire on the low health target. But I'm outflanking this guy here because he's really immobile because he's on soft terrain. And I'm coming up here and I'm engaging the Egg Tiger 88. Now, if I didn't have team support, what I would do is I would drive straight forward, come around here to the side of the Egg 88, and I would actually sit beside him to keep him from being able to shoot me, and then I would shoot the AT-7 to take his gun out of the fight because he's lower health than the Egg Tiger 88, and I actually have potentially can kill this AT-7 with one clip. I cannot kill the Egg Tiger 88 with one clip. I would have to reload one or maybe even two more times before I would be able to kill him on my own. So that just a quick hypothetical scenario there is as far as tips on how to engage multiple enemy targets if you're by yourself. Eliminate the low health target first if at all possible, and if you're engaging a tank destroyer and a tank with a turret, for example, a really good technique to do is just use the tank destroyer for cover if at all possible. This is the ideal situation when you're on open ground and they can't reverse up against solid cover. You just use him and keep to their sides or rear so they can't shoot you, and just be willing to trade shots with the other tank because you won't be able to stay in cover from both tanks. So, sorry, quick ramble of a hypothetical scenario there. And unfortunately right there, that's another waste of a premium clip there. Deliberately held my shot there to get the kill on the AT-7, so that was a little cheeky. So unfortunately, wasted an APCR clip there. I was originally loaded it because I thinking I was going to be shooting at mid-range at the AT-7's armor, but the scenario didn't end up like that. So now we're content just to spot the S-51 here for our team. He is pre-aimed at us, so we're just willing to use this building here for cover and let our team take the kill. Too often artillery has killed me. Artillery is really, really annoying for light tanks right now because they have such really big splash radius, and they're more accurate and they have a faster reload than normal, and because of the corridor meta in general of map design in World of Tanks, already can pre-aim in an area where it's likely that tanks will be, and they seem to be more of a counter to scouts than scouts are a counter to artillery, unfortunately. So that is one element that I don't like in World of Tanks at the moment, and I think that Wargaming would could fix the problem by just trying to improve how they design maps and making it less easy for artillery players to predict where players, not just scout players, but any players, heavies, mediums, tank destroyers, will be. Of course, there will always be quote-unquote meta or common positions that people will use, but it will always be a little bit more of a guessing game. And that's the kind of game that you want to be. You want to design. You want to make a paper rock scissors game, where and a little bit of a chess game, right? I like layers of mechanics in a games where you're trying to outthink your opponent and not just outreact your opponent, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this game in the AMX 12t on Live Oaks. It's one of my most favorite maps in World of Tanks. Like I said at the start, and in this game I was able to earn 100% mark of excellence in the Tier 6 French Scout. I plan on keep playing this Scout until I get 100% on the first skill, and then I will probably switch my crew out to the Tier 8 French Scout, the Bat Chat 12t. So going from 12t to 12t, so to say. And then maybe I'll get some gameplay footage for you guys in the new Tier H French Scout as well down the road sometime. Hopefully not too long now. But I want to thank you guys again for watching this video. Hope you guys have a very, very Merry Christmas. Spend some time with family and friends and your loved ones. Enjoy some good food, presents, and spend some quality time. Do something fun together, and I really hope that you have a good holiday and a very Merry Christmas. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.